for Crazy Stamps. Today we're using some older sets. This is the Love is in the Air. I've used this one for multiple videos because I love it. And also Beautiful Blooms. Use this one a couple of times too. But today we're going to be concentrating on the layering stencil. So I had an idea for these cute little birds to be in, I don't want to say like a tree of flowers, but like to have a little flower background in their sky, which is what I'm doing right now, by the way. I have one of the blending brushes and I'm just using Salty Ocean, going in super soft, blending in some blue, leaving some areas white for my clouds. And I'm just going to do this the whole way down. This is a slimline card. Mine is 8.5 by 3 3/4. So I'm going in, doing the sky, but I really wanted them to have like these beautiful flowers behind them because y'all know I love flowers, right? And there are flowers in the set, but they're a little bit on the smaller side, and I wanted these flowers to be big. So enter Beautiful Blooms, which is a super pretty set. It has 2 florals in it. One is a whole set put together with like extra like berries and leaves, and one is just the floral cluster. So I'm going to be using both of them today, because I knew I was going to have to do quite a few of them to fill up my background for my little birdies to be in this, why do I keep saying field? In this tree, this shrub of flowers, whatever. You get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. And so I'm going to stamp down the floral cluster that's completely built, the floral cluster by itself, and then 2 of the additional leaves that are also by themselves. For every single one of these images, you can use the layering stencils to color, whether you're doing the full one that's put together or the one that's just the flowers. And I am going to stamp these out, and I actually stamped 2 of these. So at the end of the day, I had 4 extra leaves, 2 of each type of floral, so that I knew I was going to have more than enough to kind of like build up my background. And I'm stamping that in our intense black ink because it is safe for alcohol markers. And I'm going to be coloring, Copic coloring the birdhouse and the birds. So I think by the end of it, though, you're going to see that you can get really good ink blending with your stencils because my birds are almost the same exact color as my flowers, and one is Copic colored and one is done with Distress inks. So here's me stamping out my little birdhouse, which I adore. This is the cutest. And I've used these birds, like I said, several times before, but I've always colored them blue. Nobody's surprised by that. I love blue. But since it's still summer, okay, I'm not going to pretend like it's not. It is still summer. I am still embracing summer. But we are getting ready to head into fall. Here I'm heat setting this just before I go in and do any of my ink blending because some of them, I think the first one I had to double stamp. So I'm just setting this to make sure it's not going to smear when I go in and do my ink blending because I have no patience. So now I'm using my sticky mat from Altenew. If you've never used Honeybee stencils before, they're super great because they're clear and they're etched. So what that means is the whole image is etched onto the stencil. So they make them so much easier to line up because you can see the image. Now, because I wanted to do my flowers 2 different colors, again, nobody is surprised. I'm using pink and orange because I love pink and orange, but I am making them a little bit more muted for fall, a little bit more geared towards fall. And so for the pink one, I am using Kitsch Flamingo, picked raspberry, and a little bit of seedless preserves. So it's like a pinky purple, more fall toned. And then for the orange flower, I'm using Wild Honey, which we haven't busted that out in a hot minute, y'all. Wild Honey, what's the second one? Ripe Persimmon, and then Crackling Campfire. So they are a little bit more jewel toned, like more geared towards fall. And so I thought that it would be fun to do the birds a different color. They're still blue. They're still blue in here. But honestly, blue's complement is orange. So really, I mean, I made a smart color wheel color choice, I think. So yeah, we're just going to go through. We're going to do the ink blending. Now you probably have noticed that when I'm listing off the colors I'm using for the ink blending, that I'm using more than one color. This is because I like a lot of dimension in my cards, and that means I like a lot of dimension even when I'm ink blending. So I typically have a base color. In this case, it's the Wild Honey that I put all over. And then I go back in with my mid-tone, which is ripe persimmon, and add a little bit more shading coming out from the base of the petals. And then I will go in with a even smaller brush and my darkest color and really concentrate that right where the edges are meeting the center. Not all of these require it to be taped off, but these ones, because they are right next to each other, did require me to tape them so I didn't get orange in my purple and vice versa. So Honeybee, I mean, I think it's brilliant, does like multiple layers on multiple stencils. So now I've just had to turn the stencil to get the other two, well, it's like half a flower and then the other flower. So again, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do the same orange combination and blend them out. You would think, because you're coloring them like at two different times, that you would be able to tell the separation of color, but you really can't. They blend in seamlessly. And I think part of that is because we do add that dimension in there. And this is a great way, especially if you don't have a lot of markers, to get more dimension in your ink blending. This is also a great way to, like, if you don't have a lot of time. Dude, stencils are so fast. Like, they're so quick. Even with having to, I think this set has 4 or 5 stencils in it. I apologize. I don't know exactly. But because you're just doing the ink blending and then moving on, like, it goes by super fast. Plus you're coloring multiple images at one time. So like this stencil right here is going to be the center of my flower. And I think these are mums. I think that's what they are. But then it's also going to give me like three, I think, of the little accessories that I can color. Now you could do them, like, if you wanted them different colors, and you'll see that at the end, where I tape things off so that I can do different layers of the stencil, different colors. But here I was totally fine doing them all. I started with mustard seed. I shaded it with the wild honey and then a little bit of the crackling campfire as well, because we changed the base color. It's not going to be the same exact color as our flower. It's going to be different enough without having to, get out a completely different color combination. And it's the same thing. Like if you wanted to do leaves, you could start with a yellow base and then do, like 2 greens, and that would give you a different color than just using the greens themselves. So there's a huge amount of way to stretch your inks, to get kind of the most bang for your buck, which you guys always know I am here for the most bang for your buck. Who was I? Oh, I was talking to my girlfriend Dawn, and somehow we got, there's another video I have coming up tomorrow, and in it I wanted to show you guys, like I used a foil cardstock, but I was like, here's how you can get a similar look with different products. And she was like, oh, people appreciate you showing them that. And I was like, I always try to, because like I remember when I was first starting out in card making, that I couldn't afford all the things. So sometimes I had to make up my own to get the look of the things that I liked in other people's cards without having to spend the money for it. And so I like still sharing those tricks. So this is one of those. Oh, I forgot a leaf. That's what I'm going back and doing there. I forgot a leaf. One of the things that I invested in early on was my ink colors. And that way I knew that I could get a ton of different looks from my stamps without having to have, every little marker or every little colored pencil or watercolor or whatever. But because I could use the inks for creating my own backgrounds, creating my own pattern paper, different techniques, because distress inks work with water, that was one of the things that I invested in pretty early on. So here, this is the area I was telling you where I'm going to go in and start taping them off. So I'm taping off the little berries, I guess is what they are. I'm not entirely sure. But also then the little flowers, because I wanted to do the leaves like a teal. This was just to bring in another color and make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to do it like a tealish combination, but then I wanted to do the little berries, the little accents on the berries brown, and then the little flowers white. So I just had to get a little creative with the masking tape. You could certainly use washi tape, masking tape, low tack tape, whatever you got. Just, or, I mean, even if you don't have tape, you could just lay like a smaller piece of paper over it and hold it with your finger just to block those areas off. Do whatever works for you. So once this one is done, also included in these stencils is a stencil for those separate leaf pieces. So I'm going to show you those. I am not going to show you the cluster on its own because I just showed you this one and it is the same exact thing. I used the same exact color combinations. I kept those 2 flowers pink and that 1 flower orange for both of those as well. All right, so this is a long video. It's been a hot minute since we've had one so long, but I am making this card and I had a little bit of a hard time like choosing the sentiment because I wanted one that I really enjoyed, and so I ended up choosing I think it's called The Best of Everything. I think that's the one I picked. I'll link it below. But so I just did a little hello, my friend. But then on the inside, this has got to be one of my favorite sentiments Honeybee's ever released. It says, friends are one of the special ways that God takes care of us. And isn't that the truth? Like, we talk and we share our lives here. You guys do it in the comments. I do it in my videos. But you know, we've developed this friendship, you and I, these back and forths, and that friendship isn't for everybody. Not everybody likes the chatting, but that's okay. I'm not here for those people, and it's fine. But I do, in this industry, I have had the blessing of meeting so many wonderful people, and 2 of them I've shared previously. Two of them they're in the hospital and they're doing chemo for completely different reasons. So one of them is my friend who has aplastic anemia, and she was approved for a bone marrow transplant. And in order to do that, she has to go through this rigorous, just so hard. She has got 20 treatments of chemo in 5 days and then 2 full body radiations. Then she has a rest day and then her bone marrow transplant, which she is an absolute rock star, and she made it through. She got her bone marrow transplant on Monday, which is like her brand new birthday, and now she is in recovery, and now we wait. She has to stay in isolation in the hospital for another month to make sure that the marrow attaches, and then she can go home and then continue isolation. The whole process takes 100 days. Let's go back to the card. So here I have a little bit of Nina Desert Storm cardstock. I am going to use these wood frame dies from Honeybee to cut out a piece of this because it embosses the wood grain, and this is going to be my post. There is a post in the Love is in the Air set, but because I chose to do a slimline card, the post isn't long enough. This other one, this little, isn't this so cute, this little scallop frame, is from the Slimline Sentiment set, and I like things framed in. Not everybody does, and you certainly could make this card without framing it in, but I just thought it added such a little fun, delicate detail to set apart the background from the foreground, and so I cut that out of white. Here, I'm just going back in and adding a little bit of shading to that die cut. I'm using gathered twigs, and then just going in with a little blending brush. I'm adding more shading at the top where it would come out from the house. And then I'm going to take the ink pad and actually just kind of lightly swipe it over the top to get just a little bit more texture. And then we're going to move on to the Copic coloring. I knew I wanted to do the birdhouse navy. I thought that the white roof would tie in the white border really nicely. So I am just going to be adding some shadows under those little shingles with my grays. The house is going to be navy, and then the border around the bottom is going to be brown to tie into that wooden post. And then I'm going to do the birds the same color as the orange mums. And I really like the way they came out. Different color combo for me, but super happy with the way that they came out. So anyway, back to my friend. So she made it through. She is a total rock star. I am so incredibly inspired by her. Her attitude about the entire thing has just been like, I'm ready. Let's do this. I'm ready to live my life. And I am just so thrilled for her to be able to have like this new lease on life. So if you are the praying type, by all means, please include her in your prayers. Now, my other friend has been diagnosed with breast cancer and 2 different aggressive forms of breast cancer. She met with her team of doctors. She went through the surgery to have everything removed. She opted for a lumpectomy versus a mastectomy. But in the course of her treatment, one of the medications that her doctors recommended, her insurance declined, which I think is so incredibly, like, the fact that insurance companies have any say in your medical care is insane to me. I don't understand it, and it infuriates me. But nonetheless, they did, even though the doctors appealed and everything else, they still declined her medication. And so, without that medication, she has started chemo this week also. Now, hers is a little bit different, obviously, because she has the cancer, and my other friend has the aplastic anemia. So same type of treatment for 2 different reasons. So then, of course, the administering of the treatment is different. Let's go back to the card. So here I am just adding some shading underneath the shingles, and because the way that it's drawn, that part of the roof has a heavier overhang, there'll be more shadows there. I chose to color in the area in between the wood pieces, the darkest blue, and then I will also use the dark blue to fill in the little holes. It would be much darker in there because there would be not as much sunlight. That lip that is drawn is going to be the lightest portion. This is one of those things where it's you have to know your markers. And this is why I encourage you guys to kind of play around with them before you start using them on a project. So I've used this marker combination a ton. I already know how it's going to work. I know that I need to go in heavy with my darker blues, because when I go in with my lighter blues, it's really going to lighten everything up quite a bit. And you'll see that as soon as I bring in the lighter color, everything is going to get much, much brighter, and it's not going to be nearly as dark as it looks right now. And that's because alcohol markers are transparent. And so when you put a lighter color over a darker color, it doesn't remove it, but it kind of pushes it back. It pushes the pigments back so that they are not as dark. And so we're going to get here to the lightest color, and you're going to see how it works for just really brightening that up. And that's, again, play around with your markers, get to know them, because 5 seconds ago, this birdhouse was super dark, and now it's much, much brighter. Same thing with the shadows inside the birdhouse. They are going to be, really dark right now. And then as we push that color back, it's going to get substantially lighter. So my girlfriend with the breast cancer, they're doing a GoFundMe for her. And I swear to you, every donation that I see on the list is another crafty person that I know. And both of these women I met due to the craft industry. And when I say crafters are the best people, really, truly, I believe that. Crafters are some of the most kindest, encouraging, generous people. And so I wanted to do something for them. There's not much you can do. You know what I mean? They don't live down the street from me. And I can't physically go there and be there and cook them dinner and help them with the things around the house and things like that. So I know from, talking to them and, doing my own research that one of the things that chemo can cause is dry skin. It's just the whole process is very drying. It can cause nausea. I mean, there's a whole list of things. So I was able to find online where I could purchase some oil soaps and lotions, chapsticks. They have a little nausea stick that they can use, tummy drops to help with the nausea, a robe so that they're super comfy and cozy, because y'all know how I feel about robes. Come on. And then I also got them a coloring book, called Maybe Swearing Will Help. That won't help everybody, but they are friends with me, so they'll get the humor. And so I just wanted to send them a little care package, and I really wanted to make them cards that didn't concentrate on their illness. I wanted to give them something that was just like a genuine friendship, I'm thinking of you and I love you kind of card. And so this will go to one of them. Just as a little kind of like pick me up to let them know that I love them, I'm praying for them, I'm thinking of them, without really, having to say that specifically. So we colored the first bird with the birds, going with my darkest color, and in order to create any sort of highlight or shadow, you really want to like add just the littlest bit of dark where it will be the darkest. So like kind of underneath the feathers. You can also see that I'm kind of flicking that color into their wing, just to kind of extend those lines. And then I will do the same thing with the next color. I will go all the way through to the lightest color, and for the lightest color, which is the highlights, there will only just be little slivers left on the tips of the feathers and like the top of the head, the top of the body. But just like with shadows, where you don't need a whole lot to make a lot of dimension, with highlights, you don't need a whole lot to make a lot of dimension. And so that's just what you see me doing there. You certainly don't need to use 4 colors. You could do this with 3 colors and get a very similar result. But I really like this color combination. Isn't this fun? This reminds me of like a color combination for like a fox, or like a little ginger cat or something like that. I just think that it's a really good one. It's like a golden orange, golden brown kind of color, and I thought that it was fitting for not only the card, but because they're birds. Plus, I couldn't color them blue again. I've done that like 3 times. I've done it like 3 times already. So yeah, so once those are done, I'm not going to show you the cutting out with the coordinating dies, just because this video is a smidge long. I know that, but we're doing a lot. So here, all of the pieces parts are cut out, and now we are going to start doing the building. No, I did not match my nail polish to the pink on purpose. It just happened that way. I must really be a big fan. And in fact, the one that I'm wearing right now is Essie's Big Spender, but it's almost identical to OPI's Miami Beat, which is my favorite OPI color. I own 2 bottles of it. Don't tell my husband. I just told him. It's not a secret anymore. It's such a good color. I couldn't help it. But Dawn and I were on the phone and we were chit-chatting, and she was like, I'm just painting my nails. I'm only going to do 1 coat though. And I was like, girl, I don't think you should only do 1 coat. Like I always do 2 coats. And she was like, no, it's a dark, like reddish pink color, like purpley pink color. So it'll be okay. And then she showed it to me and I was like, girl, I think we're wearing the same color nail polish. But she was wearing Miami Beat. But yeah, great color. Anywho, back to the card at hand. So here I just went through, I glued down the flowers where I wanted them to go. I kind of created a little S look there for the design to get a balance. The bottom I left more open. That's where my bird and my sentiment are going to sit. And then I'm just going to trim off the excess. So the frame, I'm just going to glue down flat. Again, this is going to give us just a little bit of separation from the back to the front. So then my birds will be popped up over the frame while the flowers sit behind the frame. I think that this, like even with just the flowers in the background, I think would be super pretty by itself. I think it would be great with like tropical flowers where you could see the little sky peeking out behind there. Really kind of anything. This one, obviously, like I said, the intention was to make it more kind of fall themed with the jewel tones. But I think that this right here, no birds, no birdhouse, super pretty. Would use this. Bigger sentiment than what I chose. You know I can't stand the white outline. That's just how I roll. So I am going to go in with some blues and just fill that in behind the flowers so everything blends super nicely. I also do the same thing with the birds, the birdhouse, that whole thing, but I'm not going to show it to you. I'm just going to do it, and then you'll see it appear like magic. You know, videos are magic sometimes. Here, I'm going to attach my post to my birdhouse, and then I'll use my markers again to just fill in that gap so that we have a continuation of the line. Truthfully, looking back on it now with everything dry, I probably should have gone with a little bit of a warmer color for everything to blend kind of seamlessly, but it looked like it matched when it was wet. It just didn't match as well once it dried. I think that they'll forgive me for it though. I don't think they'll be mad. So I'm laying this in place. I'm going to glue my birds to my birdhouse. Then I will flip the whole thing over and use my foam tape to pop it up. You certainly could do the like stacking of the die cuts to pop it up. That would work as well. But the foam tape for me was easier to do it this way. So anywho, I wanted to send them little cards. I haven't made the second card yet. I need to do that. And so I'll have to come up with another idea for that. But is it just me? Share your opinion. I really want to know. Because everybody has had like loss and illnesses and things like that. When you're giving or receiving a card that is for something that is basically as terrifying as what these amazing women are going through, do you want a card that's like, I'm so sorry, I hope you're feeling better, or would you rather have a card that was like encouraging and uplifting? Because I feel like I would rather have a card that was encouraging and uplifting, because like they are not their diseases. They are still the same people that I know and love. They are just have these diseases. It's not all encompassing. And so I don't think I would want people to treat me like that was the only thing about me that mattered. I mean, I wouldn't want anybody to be dismissive of it either, I guess. I don't know. It's such a fine line. I'd be interested to hear your feedback on that. So I trimmed off the bottom of this. This is now popped up. I'm going to go in and add some white highlights to my house, to my birds, to the little berries, in the background. Just you guys know how I love the details. This sentiment I stamped in black on white, and then I used the coordinating die to cut it out. It just says, "Hello, my friend." I am going to pop up the majority of it. This H does overhang the wood for the birdhouse post just a little bit, so I did not put any foam adhesive there, as it's already there underneath the post. So then I'm going to use my tweezers to place this down. And then I'm going to use, what did I use? Marvelous Moments. I'm really digging that gem option right now, I think. I'm going to use a couple of those to just accent the sentiment and finish off the card. I thought about putting them in more places on the card, but I have a lot going on and I didn't want to overwhelm, so I just stuck with accenting the sentiment. I also went in and added, because it's a card for me, so it has to have some glimmer. I added it to the birds themselves, as well as to the flowers in the background, just so, when the light catches it, it's nice and shimmery. And then that's it. I mean, the whole thing is done. I hope that you'll, maybe if you haven't tried color layering stencils, give them a try, especially if you have lots to color. Fastest, easiest way to knock it out and still get beautiful results. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.